Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, because they've gone on television and said how terrible it is that the media are following them around and writing things about them. Well, they might understand at some point, I'm not sure that will be soon, in fact I'm sure it won't, that the media coverage of the royal family and the making the royal family this center of attention is actually the fuel that allows this family to go on shafting the people of Britain. They're given tremendous amounts of positive publicity. Day after day, oh, what dress is Kate wearing? What dress is Meghan wearing? And all this stuff. And every now and again, they get some criticism when they do things, for instance, like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. They lecture everyone else about the need to stop doing things because we have to save the world, while they fly around in private jets. Now, you didn't realize you were going to get criticism for that gross hypocrisy. But of course, it's poor me, and I'll come to that in a second. But this is a story that has been running this week, and actually I'm halfway through this book now. I bought the book and I'm halfway through it. It's very good. This is the story relating to the extraordinary goings on within the British royal family, and the emphasis on this simple fact. British people are not taking themselves seriously, and they're not having self-respect while they allow this family of crooks and criminals, and worse, to go on living off their backs. And this is the story. It was on davidicke.com, the version on davidicke.com, and this is the headline. Royal Rich List, Queen tops list of the firms, that's what they call themselves, the firm's most affluent, with 1.6 billion fortune. The Queen tops the list in the British royal family with a 1.6 billion pound fortune. Now, that is kind of shocking enough, but 1.6 billion doesn't even get close to the true wealth of the Queen. And the headline goes on with Princess Eugenie, who's kind of well down the pecking order, with a mere 3.8 million pounds to her name. And the meme underneath, which I did with the story, it says millionaires and billionaires for simply being members of the same family. When is Britain going to wake up, grow up, and see they are taking the piss? So this is a book written by a former member of Parliament about much background to the British royal family. A lot of it has been in my books over the years, but it's very good to see it pulled together between two covers. And the money that they filth off the British people is extraordinary, but also the hidden power that the royal family has, where people say, oh no, they've got no power now, it's just good for tourism. And when you see what power they actually have hidden unspoken but happening in the shadows, as revealed by this book. It is utterly shocking for a country that calls itself a free country and a democracy. It says here in the story, the Queen is worth 1.6 billion and has an investment portfolio which comes to at least 500 million. According to new released Royals Rich List, Prince Charles is raking in money from car parks and surf schools across Cornwall. He has around 21 million being paid directly into his wallet from the Duchy of Cornwall estate. And when you read about this Duchy of Cornwall estate, which is actually land and businesses and holdings that should be owned by the government on behalf of the people, at least in theory, it's going into his pocket. And the laws that apply to the rest of the population that actually don't apply to this mob, as revealed in this book, is just breathtaking. Do you know the Queen? You know when people are prosecuted in the courts, they're prosecuted not on behalf of the government or on behalf of the people of the country. They're prosecuted on behalf of the monarch. That's why you see court cases that say Regina, i.e. the Queen, the Crown is much bigger than the Queen, versus whoever is being prosecuted, or whoever the other party in the case. And what it means is that the Queen cannot be prosecuted for anything. Otherwise, the way the courts are set up, she would be prosecuting herself, and that is not allowed. Think about that. 60-odd million people in this country, all of which can be prosecuted, at least officially, in terms of the elite, but the Queen cannot be. And they break the law, they break seatbelt laws, they have car accidents which they were responsible for. Nothing ever happens. And it's just amazing. I mean, we've got people, not least the English football team, and in other situations where they sing the national anthem. But the national anthem is not an anthem to the country. It's an anthem to the monarch, currently the Queen. And in that anthem to the Queen, God save our gracious Queen, long live our noble Queen, God save the Queen. In that anthem is the line, send her victorious, happy and glorious, long to reign over us, God save the Queen, long to reign over us, which means long to be the force of control over us. And it's the national anthem. And long to reign over us, to have control of us, there's not some trite kind of throwback to history. You cannot, if you are elected as a member of Parliament by your voters in your constituency, you cannot take your place in Parliament without pledging an oath of allegiance to the Queen and her heirs. It's the same with the police force in England. Same with the armed forces. Judges. The whole shebang. Intelligence personnel. that they don't pledge an allegiance to be true to the country and the people that live in the country, but to the Queen. And when you see the Queen speaking in Parliament at the time of a new session, what they call the Queen's speech, she talks about my government. And the opposition party is called the most loyal, my most loyal opposition. All roads lead to the Queen as the centre of power. And they become billionaires and millionaires through this system and shaft everyone else. And so we've had this great irony this week that people in that extraordinarily extreme level of privilege by birth or marriage, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, coming out saying, poor me, oh, it's terrible. And it's so terrible they're going to take 6 weeks off from royal duties, which basically means opening things for money, our money. Oh, they work so hard. He opened the curtains on a plaque yesterday. I mean, you know, works hard. So they're taking 6 weeks break. I'm sure Ethel on the checkout at Tesco would like to take a 6-week break, but she's too busy funding people like that. I said when the marriage was coming up between Prince Harry and Meghan Markle that she was going to be big trouble, not least for him, but also for the royal family, and it's turning out that way. You know, I just think she's a main chancer and an extreme narcissist, and she's imposing those traits upon people on the royal family, if you like. Not that she has to impose them on because that's what they are anyway. But I mean publicly, and that's the crime from the royal family's point of view. It's not what you do; it's whether people see you doing it. And of course, this Prince Harry is now changed into a woke person, what I call woke privilege, and he's now making himself look ridiculous by, first of all, making speeches in bare feet, just to show how woke and environmental he is. What bare feet have to do with that, I don't know. Standing on a stage, and then heads for the private jet. So they've also started legal action against the media and what have you. And yet it's the publicity, most of it good, until now, when they've been involved in a number of things that have attracted criticism, that actually is the fuel, like I said earlier, of the royal family, that basically allows it to survive. And how people, I mean, it's just me, how people can look on and see them just basically laughing at the people of the country and taking all this money from the people of the country. And yet people still stand there waving the Union flag when they go past. Doesn't she look lovely? Well, she might. But why are you paying for it? And why do they have far more power than you do just because of the family they're born into or the person that they married? And by the way, final question. Why are we deciding the head of state in Britain and indeed the head of state in many Commonwealth countries, including Canada and Australia, by who had sex with who in what order. It's just madness. It's a real case of take a deep breath, take a step back, look at it again. And talking of the royal family, there's been a programme this week in Britain called Dispatches, which has looked at Prince Andrew's connections, another person who's living off the backs of the people for no other reason than he's a member of a family. If he had to go and get a job of his own based on merit, I mean, crikey, he'd get nowhere. And this Dispatches has looked at the connections between Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein, and they're nothing that anyone who's researched this didn't know already, but to put it out on the mainstream, or as mainstream as you can call Channel 4 in Britain, is a step forward. And one of the things that came out of the programme was the incredulity of one person interviewed, and it's my incredulity as well, although I say incredulity if you didn't know how the system works, that given the evidence of Andrew's connections to Epstein, a monumental paedophile who was actually running a blackmail operation for Mossad, the Israeli intelligence network, and the ever more credible, as the program showed, claims of Prince Andrew having sex with a minor who was basically a sex slave of Epstein, that the British police have announced they're not going to take any action and they're not going to take it further. But of course, we come back to ultimately is the boss of the police. It's the Queen in the hierarchy. I mean, people of Britain, lots of them have, mind, long ago, but when are the rest going to see what an absolute in-your-face criminal operation, mafioso operation, this British royal family is? Which is only called Windsor, by the way, or Mountbatten Windsor, Windsor Mountbatten, because they changed the name during the First World War when the other wing of their family in Germany, from which they came, through the House of Saxe-Coburg-Gotha, was bombing Britain. Oh, yeah, bad PR. We'll change the name. We'll change Saxe-Coburg-Gotha to Windsor, yeah. Yeah, but what about Battenberg? That sounds a bit German. Oh, we'll call that Mountbatten. Okay. One of the things that this book looks into, as I have in my own books, are the connections between the British royal family and the Nazis. It's unbelievable. But you see, if you can control information, this is why it's so outrageous that this Meghan Markle and Prince Harry can complain about media coverage of them, when it's media suppression of the truth about the British royal family that allows them to survive. They want to be very, very careful that they don't bite the hand that literally feeds them. Just before I leave the subject, another story on Epstein and Andrew. Sex slave Virginia Roberts, she's the lady now under another name since she married, that made these allegations about her being forced to have sex with Prince Andrew on 3 occasions. Sex slave Virginia Roberts went to hospital with internal bleeding following Jeffrey Epstein orgies, as she claims paedophile graded her performance after she slept with Prince Andrew. Medical records, this was something highlighted in the Channel 4 program. Medical records show Jeffrey Epstein's alleged victim, Virginia Roberts, was admitted to hospital in New York. At the time, she says she was suffering regular sexual abuse. The evidence against Epstein and details of his friendship with British royal Prince Andrew was set out in a Channel 4 documentary last night. It re-examined Virginia Roberts' court evidence from 2015, in which she told how she was trafficked by Epstein and forced to have sex with his many friends. This was how the whole blackmail operation worked, because there were cameras and audio microphones all over the place in Epstein properties. As part of that activity, she alleges she had sex with Prince Andrew 3 times, first time in London in 2001, second time in New York, and the third in an orgy in the US Virgin Islands on Epstein's Island. According to Channel 4's Dispatches program, the Prince and the paedophile, Mrs. Roberts, later feared for her life due to the amount of sexual abuse she suffered at the hands of Epstein and his associates. The program obtained medical records from a New York hospital that show that Miss Roberts suffered 3 weeks of vaginal bleeding from the 9th of July 2001. According to court documents, Miss Roberts was brought to London by Epstein in March 2001 when she was 17 and met the Prince at a house in Belgravia, with all that is claimed to have followed, and the supporting evidence of that is considerable, not least the famous photograph of the two together in that house. And yet this is a situation that the British police have decided they're not going to pursue, which in itself, British police, is criminal activity. Oh, don't she look nice? Goodness me.